Hey there, this is Matthew Jennings. On this episode of Peachjar Extra Credit, we are talking branding. Mary, Jan, thank you so much for joining me here today. This is really awesome. We are here for the annual CalSPRA conference. We are at the conference hotel. It's alive, it's living. You might see people cruising around behind us. You might hear noises. Bear with us on all of that as we sit and I talk to the crew here from Desert Sands on some of the really amazing and awesome work they've done around branding and bringing that forward and really making sure that they're not losing track of living their mission and values every single day. But before we get started, I'd love just please introduce yourself a little bit.
Okay.
Where you're at, what kind of your background is, how you got here.
Okay. I'm Mary Perry, and I'm the Public Information Officer for Desert Sands Unified School District. This is my 10th year with the school district, with education as marketing. I spent an over 40-year career in corporate America, did some work in nonprofit, and ultimately ended up here just celebrating students.
I love that. That's a long career. And it should be said that Mary is retiring.
I am.
This is her last year, which has been really special for me to be able to do this with you, here at the conference. So really thank you so much for taking the time.
Thank you very much.
Jan, what about you?
My name is Jan Diaz. I'm communications specialist for Desert Sands. Worked alongside with Mary for the last almost 10 years together. So dynamic duo, sharing all the wonderful things that go on in our 35 schools for Desert Sands Unified School District.
That's awesome. And yeah, Desert Sands, a huge friend of Peachjar. Peachjar is a huge fan of Desert Sands and the work y'all are doing out there. We follow each other's social media, which is wonderful. And you're always spreading the really good news. So really just, I know from all the Peachjar family, I just want to say a huge shout out and thank you. When I told everybody we were getting together, everybody's excited to hear that. So thank you very much from the bottom of our hearts as well for all that you do for your communities and families. So we're talking branding today. This is a really cool, I think, take on branding. A lot of times, and there'll even be sessions here at the conference where people talk about doing a logo redesign or maybe renaming a school or something like that, right? And it's all the front end work. And I'd love to talk about some of the front end work a little bit. But what I really want to get into is what does that mean down the road? So if you wouldn't mind, just give me a little background. You recently went through some repositioning. Can you tell me a little bit about why and kind of how that came about?
Okay. We had a very old brand. And when I say brand, I know your audience knows this, but a logo is not a brand. A logo is the visual representation of your brand. So we had a very old logo, but mostly we had a very old brand. And we decided it was time to kind of keep in step with the students and be a little more, with what we were doing. So we had a fairly new superintendent who was really 100% in on working with the brand. And so we did bring in an outside graphic design company. We talked about doing
something in-house?
Some kind of contest. And we're like, no, this has got to be professionally created because we're going to professionally use it.
I also want to include that it wasn't just bringing in an outside company and just, sourcing it out. It was multi-stakeholder focus groups, and we got all kinds of voice in what people think of when they hear the words Desert Sands Unified School District. It went from student input to parent input, community members. It was a very in-depth, and once again, it wasn't just about creating a new logo. It was the entire branding.
And we even had a branding committee that was 1 or 2 people from every single school.
That's great.
So we had T-shirts made, and they were our ambassadors. They were willing to not only discuss where we were going, but then to share the word with the rest of the team.
That's awesome. That's really critical. I imagine
really
students were involved as well.
Those students were part of the focus groups.
That's wonderful. Yeah, a few years back when I went through a logo redesign with Newport Mesa Unified School District, so shout out to Annette and her team out there. Very similar approach, bringing in the committee, bringing in the different groups, making sure you have voices and the stakeholders that are all invested in it, especially when you change something. That how long had you had the previous logo?
In its changing versions
Okay.
because, you know, there was one logo, then it changed a little bit, then it changed, but it's still the same logo, which to me, I always said looked like a badge for a police officer.
Yeah.
So it's like, I'm not sure that's the look we want for schools. And so I would say we probably had the brand 50 years.
Yeah.
Yes.
So we were up against the
50
same
plus
thing.
years.
50 plus years.
And there's a lot of history there, and there
There
are very
is.
strong opinions about whether you change that
Yeah.
or not. But I really appreciate the kind of the tact that you took and bringing other voices in, and the fact that you said it really well. Like, we needed to be more in step with the community and the
did.
students that we serve.
And part of the logo that we had a lighthouse.
Okay.
And I understand why they put the lighthouse. It was, you know, we're that beacon of light for students, but you know, we do sit in the middle of the
How
desert.
many lighthouses are there?
We don't have any lighthouses where we come from. So we thought, well, you know, that probably isn't the best image. So we brought in, as I said, this outside team who I actually had used previously at other places that I worked. And they brought us one logo. One. And they said to us,
That's brave.
this is the best we can do. This is the best we believe in.
Okay.
And they explained it and they showed it to us, and we 100% bought in. And it's a little, you have to think about it a little bit, but the colors are primary colors because after all, we work with children.
Yes.
They're a series of connecting and interconnecting circles because it's, think of a pond and you drop a pebble in it and that ripples out. And isn't that what we do? Isn't that what our
Yes, that's a
teachers
beautiful
do
message,
with
yeah.
our children?
Yep.
And so that was all part of it. Circles, you know, the whole circle of life, the
Yeah.
whole bringing in, and the circles are not the same width, thickness.
Okay, yeah.
I know Jan
Different
has one there in her hands. And so that was the beginning of it.
Awesome.
And we thought, well, this is really interesting. So we can work with this.
Yeah.
And so that was the first part. And then we really, really jumped into the messaging. So what is our brand? What is it? Who are we?
Yeah.
And isn't our brand students? That's what we do. It's right. It's all about kids. And so for us, we came up with a new vision statement, a new mission statement, and a series of values.
Okay.
And that was about, well, it was probably, what do you think, 5 years ago that we
Yes,
started
about
the
5 years
process?
ago.
About 5 years ago. And today, to date, we still live this brand.
That's wonderful. Yeah, I mean, I know, you know, and I'll link back to the website here so you can see all these, but I know the mission to inspire and nurture every student one opportunity at a time. I really love that. And then our vision, we will be the district of choice to successfully prepare every student for college, career, and life. Can you tell me a little bit about then, well, I do want to go back one sec. So I want to take one step back and just, you had mentioned something, Mary, that I think is really worth highlighting, and that is you avoided a contest.
We did. And there were many people who thought this should be a student-based contest.
Yes.
And I know that's a strong feeling out there. As much as I love the work that our students do, and we actually have a district-wide art exhibition every year, and the artwork is incredible. But we really believed that this was an opportunity to bring in the professionals,
Yes.
to really talk about what is branding, what is marketing, why are you doing this? And I know I told you earlier, Matthew, that Jan and I speak often at career fairs, and we go in and we speak together because our work is connected, but we have individual strengths. And the first question I always ask the students is, well, what is a brand? What's branding? You know, and they look at you like, oh, you know, it's that Nike swish. And, you know, it's like, no, that's not your brand. And so we bring them back in time to the days of cattle ranches. And suddenly, you know, one little boy who thinks he's being wise, you know, will say, oh, yeah, that's what you do to cows. And we go,
Exactly.
that's exactly right. That's what a brand
That's
is.
where it came from.
It sort of depicts ownership, right? That's when you put that brand on the cattle. That's who that cattle belongs to. That's who that cow belongs to. And so it's really important that that brand represent you fully.
So you have a place of belonging.
Exactly.
And just to kind of take that a step further too, if you're thinking about doing a logo redesign, there are some real benefits to bringing in a professional crew.
There really
Absolutely.
are.
We went down the same road when we did it in Newport Mesa, and there were some strong feelings about having a student-run competition. And I immediately reached out to some of my peers that had recently done logos, and like, whatever you do, avoid the in-house competition.
Yeah, absolutely.
And there are some stories that go along with that too. If you're interested in that, reach out. I can connect you with some people. But what I found hyper important for our standpoint when we were redesigning a logo that was as old as ours was as well, was that crew came in, that professional crew came in and really talked to people about what branding meant and why it's important and what its significance was. And they were able to take notes on what are our current values, what do we see ourselves as, how do we envision ourselves, and they were able to build the designs around that input. And that's just not something you're going to get from something that's a district-wide competition, you know,
Absolutely.
and allows you to step out of it a little bit too. So we certainly didn't want in the communications office look like we were steering everybody down this particular logo path, right?
Exactly.
Right, exactly.
And so it kind of gives you like, I'm once removed here, you know.
You know, it's funny, we talk about students in artwork, and we have this annual district-wide art exhibition, and this year's, the one that will take place in April, is Living Your Values, and how does art help to live your values? And so it's going to be set up in the district office by galleries, and the galleries will be each of the values.
That's awesome.
And we'll see what the students have come up with.
And those are the values based around the values you've set out, right? Oh, wow, that's wonderful. Well, I'll definitely put those up on the screen here so you can check out what that means.
Thank you.
So you kind of started alluding to it, but let's talk about then living our values. So what we want to avoid, and I think we've all seen companies do this, where they do a rebranding or something, and it goes out there, and it's like a box that everybody checked,
check that one.
and they're done. But that's really not the way to live your brand and to
so
set
much
those
more
values.
than that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So talk to me about kind of how you've moved forward now, because it's been a couple of years since you've done this redesign. Talk to me, bring me forward here.
Well, Jan and I are the brand police.
Oh,
So
you have to be.
we are the
man.
brand
Let's
police.
just say that right
Unofficial.
now.
Right now.
Redesign a logo,
Yes.
and you will become one of the most hated people in your district because you will be seeking and destroying all versions of the old logo. And anytime somebody uses it
Jan
somewhere,
walks around and pulls
We're
them
still
down.
fighting that battle, honestly.
or they'll redesign
Right.
it, or they'll stretch it, or
Yeah,
they'll write
so
over
there
it.
you
or-
go.
Yeah, so just know that it's a very sensitive subject when you redesign a logo. But okay.
So I just want to say that we have a branding guide, and we'd certainly share that with anyone who'd like to see it. It gives you the colors that we use, the fonts that we use, why we do what we do. But I wanted to not miss out on talking about electronic media while we're doing this. So we had a fine website.
Okay.
But it didn't connect really well with all of the schools. So I'm actually going to throw that one over to Jan.
Aside from our unofficial titles as brand police, there are more of us because we do have an actual brand committee. That takes myself and Mary to represent the communications office. And then we also have our director of graphic services as well as their lead graphic designer. So between the four of us, we regularly meet. And go over a variety of things that might have come up. But as we were earlier on, it really was, some policing and how we're going to move forward. So even in different instances, the designers that we worked with gave us a collection of logos to use in different instances. So we have probably a dozen by now because we've had to develop certain ones for different purposes.
Yeah.
So
like
you have your
the
black, and you can this is the color, and it's not just red. It can be the blue. It can be the yellow along with the black. We only allow the logo to be used on a white background. You can't use it on a colored background, so it has to be boxed when we do that.
Right.
So and then we had a kind of a fun thing is so many of the departments or school programs wanted to come in on it. And they wanted to have new logos.
Yeah, new logos.
And so their logos had to come through the brand
police.
Brand committee.
The
The brand committee.
Brand committee.
Brand committee. And it was so fun to work with them to create the different, I think our ELOT program came up with one, our Bot Ball one has come up with one, our equity and diversity. And so that's been really wonderful to see that there has been a buy-in. They've embraced the logo, they've embraced the brand, and they want to move forward with it.
That's great.
Right. And we are helping keep the integrity of the
Yes.
brand, right? We're
Yeah.
not getting all loosey-goosey and all over the place with unofficial this and that.
Which is another benefit with working with an outside agency that knows what they're doing is they're also going to provide you with that branding and style guide.
Yes, they did. They
which
helped.
is the document you get to lean back on and say, you know what, this is how we need to do this. You know, keep things 1
Straightforward.
inch from the logos, you know, whatever.
Right.
But
Yeah, and I
that
have to
branding
tell
and
you
style
that
guide's great.
we introduced the new brand at a convocation.
Okay.
So we had every single Desert Sands staff member,
Nice.
every one of them, in a big room, and we had banners with each of the values, and we had the mission and vision on the screens. We all were appropriately clothed, and
District
we
colors.
just went, here it is, and we unveiled it, and we had T-shirts
There you go.
with them. We
Swag.
threw them
Yeah.
out there, and we
Great.
had hats, and
Every
we threw them
staff
out
member
there.
got
Everybody.
one of these with
These
the-
are really cool. Thank
Yeah.
you for this.
Yes.
This is an amazing little travel lunchbox that I was just gifted, which is great. Some really awesome notebooks. And I wanted to ask you about these a little bit, but these are great. Just a notebook to write in, but that first page you come to is our mission, our vision, and on the back you've got all the values.
Exactly.
And then I imagine these are just available everywhere. You're at
They are.
events, you're handing them out. Like,
Yep,
how are you
staff
using stuff like
staff can just go into graphic services and grab some for their
Great.
desk.
this? That's great.
Yeah.
So then let's keep talking just a little bit about how you're leaning into the mission and values that you established. And kind of bring me forward now, because I know very clearly you are not a set it once, check the box, and moved
No,
on. You really
that's not us.
focused on building that culture and
Right.
everything around
Did drop the card.
the ownership and people feeling like they're part of something bigger
Right.
than themselves. So talk to me a little bit about that.
Well, early on, we did develop, once we established our 9 values, we developed a staff recognition program.
Oh, cool.
And you can nominate or recognize a staff member. We have an online submission form that you could mark like which value they represented
Or
and give them a
multiple.
little shout out. Yeah, or multiple values.
Okay.
Give them a shout out. And then every person who is nominated or recognized rather gets a printed certificate and their comments that they received from the submitter are printed on the back of the certificate.
Oh, that's awesome.
And
really
so
they get to see what's said
leadership has
about
all
them.
been directed to present the staff their certificate in a group setting. So
Yeah.
whether it's a department meeting, reading it out loud, the message that they received and that they're being recognized for.
front of their peers.
So we still have that going to this
Really
day.
strong. We live in a community where agriculture is our second largest industry. Tourism is first, of course,
Yeah.
and agriculture is second. And during COVID, we worked very closely with local farmers because local farmers were out of work. A lot of the migrant farm workers were having difficulty getting jobs.
And
so
their food was going bad. They
Yeah.
didn't have a place to, so many restaurants and
Yeah.
places were closed.
Yeah,
Their
there's
food
nowhere
was
for it to
going
go.
bad. So we developed this
we had
amazing
actually a local
partnership.
farmer who approached us and said, listen, I have this idea. And it was incredible that the local farmers now sell their produce directly to the school district.
Wow.
And they're also in several of the neighboring districts as well. So not only do our kids get this fabulous fresh fruit and
Fresh,
vegetables,
local.
our nutrition services department holds little farmers market for the kids. And
No way.
it's so funny, we were at one when this little boy telling him what the vegetables are, and we said, well, this is an eggplant. And he's just like, this is not an egg.
It's not
And he
an
had
egg.
never seen an eggplant
Yeah,
before.
this is
So
not
it's
an
sort
egg.
of
It's not
grown.
how eggs grow.
Everything is so connected and so
Yes.
grown. And so it's really excited that. So the point of this with the employee recognition is the employees whose names are drawn, the people who have been recognized, they get a box of fruit and vegetables.
Wow, that's
it's
awesome.
it's so amazing.
And they get very excited.
They
Oh,
do.
yeah, I can imagine.
This harvest box is very coveted.
It
so,
is.
And it's all thanks to this great partnership
I
that we
want a
have with.
harvest box.
I know.
Yeah.
It's when you
gotta
come
come out
visit,
and get
we'll
one.
get you
Okay,
a
I'm
harvest
gonna
box.
come
They're
visit
pretty
the
terrific.
harvest box.
So
That's
that's
really cool.
one big way
Right.
that we still do live our values.
And we have a fairly new superintendent. She's been with us about 2 years now, and she is such a proponent of the brand.
Nice.
And she finds all kinds of ways to include
That's wonderful.
the values in everything that we do.
Leadership is so important. It really does come from the top down.
It does. It really does. Makes a big difference.
It does.
We consider her part of the communications team
I love
because
that.
we call her One Take Kelly
Nice.
because she's pretty incredible at the whole video thing. But it really does make a difference to have that kind of support from the board, from the cabinet level, and in every one of our staff members.
Yeah, it's really true. You know, I get to the honor of co-hosting the School PR podcast with Ryan Ferrance. Shout out to Ryan.
Hey,
School PR
Ryan.
podcast,
Hi.
and one of the things we talked about recently was the impact that the communications team has specifically on brand and culture. I mean,
Absolutely.
You know, probably more than any other department in a school district, which is one of those critical things. If you are a school district watching this or a superintendent and you don't have a professional communications person on staff, that's one of those things that really critical. You know, people want to think, you know, social media or crisis comms, and yes, that's all part of it, and that does go towards building your brand and establishing your reputation. But that's the most critical thing that our role serves, is that culture and the brand and the ownership and making people feel welcome in the space. I mean, I can only imagine your logo.
I know, my little
you know,
bag.
You've got
my
staff
bag out
retention,
here. We do.
You've got student retention. You've got families that are buying into that. The community at large. You know, like you just mentioned, the farmers. You know, that are all part of this culture and this brand, and it really goes back to the work that you all are doing. And then second to that is the superintendent, you know, and
it takes
does.
every one of us. When we introduced the brand at the convocation, we actually had a video. We produced a video in-house, produced a video, and we went around and we took shots of all kinds of people, elected officials, our staff, our students, teachers, everybody, and all they had to do was say one line: "The future is here." So was it the future is here, or was it the future is here? And so they all put their own special twist on it. And we actually ended with my then 4-year-old granddaughter sitting on some steps pointing to herself, and she said, "The future is here."
Oh,
So it's pretty moving. So yeah, Jan can absolutely connect you with that.
I will. I'll definitely link to that in the description. That is beautiful. That is a really powerful image right there.
It really was.
So can you all, you know, Mary Jan, just kind of talk really quickly about some of the other ways that you got buy-in for the new look, the new logo?
Yeah, we one of the big ways was completely redesigning our district website. Brand new look and feel, and we really wanted, it was
Jan's
huge.
job.
It was absolutely huge, but it was a great way to be tied to the new branding, the new look, the new district colors, and have a whole color scheme and everything. But with having 35 schools and numerous programs, we wanted to have a collection of websites, and we wanted to redo them all as a family. And we did. It took a while. It definitely was not overnight, but we have a very seamless family of websites now that are all very clean and user-friendly, easy to use, and they all link back to the district website. But you know, again, it's just sort of circles back to our image.
And one of the last things we've done with the brand, getting the brand all out there and everywhere, is vehicle graphics.
Oh yeah, okay. Talk to me about the vehicles.
Okay, so the vehicles had graphics. I don't know, we can't say 50 years because the cars weren't that old, but they had all kinds of different logos on all of them.
Different iterations over time.
I'm like, what is this? So we, working with our graphics team, we designed a very classic looking, it's actually the DSUSD.
Oh, right.
Do we have a version of it to show?
Actually.
Yeah, but it just says DSUSD.
Well, you can give me an actual
We'll send
image
anyway,
of
and
one of the vehicles, and it'll be on screen
they're
right now.
just finishing them now. And I had said to them, you know, I really don't want to leave until everything is complete. So they actually drove a bunch of trucks out in front of our office building, and Jan and I and our superintendent went out to look at them, and there they all were. We call them the White Fleet.
Yeah, the White Fleet.
And so the White Fleet had all of our new logo finally, and so kind of brought tears to my eyes. It has. It's been a while, but we're there.
It is beautiful, and that, you know, can't be stated enough. I mean, those are the vehicles that are out there running around. You know, it's great for you to put, and I've highlighted this in several Peachjar Extra Credit videos with other PIOs that I've talked to across the country, and we talk about branding, and we talk about advertisements on billboards or city buses and all of that stuff. And that's great, but that's fleeting.
It is.
You know, you pay for a monthly or quarterly, you know, distribution where your logo's out there running around the city in different ways, and that's great. But your working trucks, your M&O trucks, your maintenance trucks, you know, all of that is out there every single day. Don't forget those. Really important.
A few years ago, we had a new nutrition services director join us, and he said to us, "Why don't we wrap the trucks?"
Why don't we wrap the trucks?
So we have 4 nutrition services trucks, and he found a grant to pay for them, and we'll provide you with the photos of our trucks. But they're full on with our students, and that's one thing that we are very we insist upon, that anybody featured in any of our material is a DSUSD student or staff member. We don't hire out, we don't use stock, we don't use clip, everything is ours. So the trucks are pretty impressive, and they're out there driving all over the valley.
That's so awesome. It's critical that the districts that I've talked to that have done that see a really significant return on that. And then you're putting something really nicely, high quality out there in the community every day, driving around. And that goes back to building that brand and that culture. And people see, you know, I mean, they must be doing well, you know, this looks really nice, this looks really great. And, you know, they're proud to be a part of that, which is great. So I know that I had a superintendent come into a previous school district, and she was brand new to the district, you know, and the trucks were in pretty bad shape. The logos were cracked and peeling and falling apart. And she's like, no, you know, and it has an impact.
It really does. It really does.
So just because I know I know we've got a really busy night ahead of us. We've got a really busy couple of days here with the professional development that we're all going to be partaking in. And so I don't want to keep you too much longer, but do you have any parting words, or just kind of words of wisdom, somebody that's about to embark on a logo redesign or repositioning of their mission and values, anything you just want to share that we haven't talked about?
You have something?
I think it's most important when you're just starting the process to not take shortcuts. I think it is well worth and so valuable to really invest the resources that you have, as well as in a lot of cases money, right, to making sure it's done right. There's just so many times that people redo and they think it's really just the logo, like we touched on earlier.
And I do have to say, to add to that, we had community buy-in to the point that we had businesses donate money to us to use towards the rebranding. So that was huge. I mean, we know communication budgets are very small. And so we were very fortunate to have local partners who said, oh no, we understand the value of this and we're going to help you. And my last words would actually be a plug for CalSPRA or NSPRA. There are so many resources available to us. So, you know, pick up the phone, send an email, text somebody. We're all here. You can call any one of us at any time. And I know I speak for Matthew too. That use your resources, not just the resources within your community and your school district, but in your professional group.
Lean into your network. That's a really good message. And just to kind of highlight what you said, you know, it is really critical. It does cost money. Like, let's just be honest. It costs money, and to get it done right, it can look like quite a bit of money. Lean into those community partners and the resources that you have access to, because, you know, when you look at, you know, declining enrollment and you know, declining birth rates nationally, internationally, there are less students, and we have to have incredibly strong brands. We have to, you know, for staff retention and recruitment, for student retention and recruitment, for the community buy-in, you know, even the home values around our neighborhood schools are impacted by the culture of our district, right? So it is an incredible, you know, opportunity that we have to bring up entire communities just through culture and brand and awareness and buy-in and ownership. So definitely lean into the resources that you have in your community. And I like the idea about like not taking shortcuts. Like it's going to take an investment in time, energy, and resources, but well worth it.
It is.
Well, last thing I want to say is, Mary, thank you so much for your dedicated years of service to our profession, to CalSPRA, to NSPRA. On the listserv at CalSPRA, for those of you in California, you know what that, you know the value of that listserv. It's absolutely solid gold. But even in these concerts, and always just sharing your knowledge and just being a warm open heart. And
You're going to make me cry. So
I just really want to say thank you very, very much.
It's been such a joy to work with everybody. And I'm not going away. I will still be available to help anybody. Just give me a shout.
All right, you heard it. You
Absolutely.
can still call her.
You can.
This is good. All right, well, thank you very much. That's all we got for this episode. We hope you like this content. Be sure to like, share, comment, follow for more. If you have any questions for us, I know any of us will take your call.
Absolutely.
We'll respond to the emails. Get in their comments. We'll respond to those as well. Stick around. We got a lot more Peachjar Extra Credit coming your way, especially during this conference. I think I'm filming 8 videos while we're here, which is going to be a lot.
That's great.
So, very, very cool. Appreciate y'all doing this with me.
Thank you.
All right, we'll see you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.